All right, good afternoon. We're here in Los Angeles. I'm Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times, and I'm happy here to have Lisa, and I'm going to let her introduce herself.
Yes. Hello, everyone. I am Lisa Datz. And in this scenario, I am the writer, director, actor, and a producer on the short film Life of Riley, which is going to be having both its US and LA premiere at the Los Angeles International Film Festival.
Lovely. Yay. Yay. And I'm one of the lucky ones that got to see it in advance. And it's a wonderful film that looks at the complexities of relationships between people from different countries and the many pitfalls of the current immigration situation.
Yes, yes.
So this story is wonderfully romantic and at the same time troubling. Was that inspired by a real experience or by something else? And where did the story come from?
Yeah, it comes from a few different personal scenarios, but it's fiction, but it's come from some really interesting scenarios and conversations that I've had with people over the years. This one in particular came from an interesting conversation I had at one point with a couple of friends of mine. It was a whole group of European friends in New York, and we started talking about cultural differences. And two of these guys happened to be Latino. They were Dominican and both architects, I believe. And we were talking about, we were on our way to a brunch and we were driving there and we stopped off at a MoneyGram. One of them had to pick up a wire transfer that they'd gotten from family in the Dominican Republic. And they made a joke about, this is like a heist movie, two Dominican guys and a white girl. Yeah, exactly. I know. One of them made that joke and I was like, oh, wow. Okay. And that got me thinking a lot about, and then some of the stories that they've shared with me, various biases. Like one of the guys told me that he was an architect and he was an architect in New York. And he told me a story about how he was trying to give instructions to a group of construction workers. And some of the guys in the group were a little out of sorts, taking directions from him. And so he passed the information along to the boss, who passed it on to the construction workers. Like, these little things that that us, particularly as Caucasian people, don't think about as much unless we're made aware of it. And so it came out of that. And then there's the best friend situation in the movie, which, without revealing too much, is an African-American woman and a Caucasian woman. And that is loosely based on my childhood best friend, who was also an African-American girl in a primarily white neighborhood. And kind of understanding more as an adult what that must have been like for her and her family. And how I didn't really see much of that portrayed in film and television. Or often, especially if it was women pitted against each other, which, so I decided to start incorporating these ideas and then some other ideas I had. I wrote the character of Simon for the actor Silas Ware Mitchell. And, so I sort of started incorporating all of these real life happenings that got these ideas sparked. Like, this is interesting. Unconscious bias, I think. Trust and unconscious bias, I think, are the two main themes that I'm tackling with this short film. And but still trying to do it with a sense of humor and hope.
Love that you girls were working out. You were running and you were sweating and you were
Yes,
you had the
exactly.
arms and yeah,
Yes,
good for you.
that was a very fun scene to do.
I bet.
Yeah.
The current status of our immigration policy is confusing at best. Your film really seems to nail things, and it's spot on in its depiction of this subject. Did you have to do a lot of research about the government's convoluted immigration policy when writing the script?
So I did quite a bit of research. And I also spoke to, again, I'm not trying to be cagey. I'm being careful not to reveal too much of the story. So that it's still a surprise. But I did speak to various police officers and people in law enforcement, and also did some research, and also read an interesting article that sort of sparked this idea years ago. She wasn't, I believe she was, I'm trying to remember, I still have the article. I think she was Eastern European, but long story short, her father was an ambassador to the United States. So she basically grew up in the United States, and she was quite well-to-do, came from a wealthy family and all of this stuff. And she had an immigration issue as an adult because she just felt like she was already an American citizen. She grew up here, she owned an apartment here, she was driving a BMW, all of these things. And so it just sort of never occurred to her that she needed to do all the steps and the paperwork to become a citizen, and she got deported.
Oh,
It was an
wow.
article that
Yeah.
I read years ago, and I thought, wow, that's interesting, because that's not what you
Mm,
see depicted very often. That's not the kind of story that you hear about immigration.
mhm,
It was sort of unusual and interesting, just sort of what her mentality was, and understandable because she felt like an American citizen. She'd grown up her whole life here.
mm.
So that was another thing that kind of sparked this idea
Yeah,
for me, was that article.
good. All interesting. Wow. Okay, you're the writer, the director, and the star of the film. Um, Roles that you handled very well,
Thank you.
as witnessed by the finished product. How did that process play out as you took this film from the open to camera?
So originally I wasn't planning to be in it. And then some of the people on my team said to me, you really need to be in this. You
So
should
you
be
were
playing
never you.
Riley.
So were you? So your past wasn't into acting?
No, it is. Oh no,
That's what I thought.
my whole career has been acting. But I
Yeah. Okay.
thought initially, when I first started creating this, I thought, well, maybe I'll just direct it and write it, and I'll cast someone else as Riley. And then working with my team, they're like, you really should play this part. So I was like, all right. And what inspired me too was I saw an interview that Bradley Cooper did around A Star is Born time with Oprah Winfrey, and he talked about what it was like to be both in front of and behind the camera. And it took him 4 years to make that film, and what that process was like. And I thought, all right, well, this is a short. Bradley Cooper can do it. I can do it too. And that was it. That sealed that interview. He didn't know, they don't know that, but that sealed the deal for me. And I'm so glad I did. I'm so glad I did, because being able to wear those different hats and literally jumping in front of and behind the camera, back and forth, once you've done that, you realize you can do it. There's so much you can do that you're more capable of than you even realize. So that was exciting for me.
Exciting and hell of a lot of work.
It
Yeah.
was.
Um, so
One thing I did learn, I'll share, is do not schedule all of your most emotional scenes back to back on day one, which
okay.
we had to do because of locations. Like, it wasn't like we weren't aware. It was more logistics, but I wouldn't do that again. That was a lot. Day one, all the hardest scenes in a row. Yeah, I wouldn't do that again.
Yeah, and then you go home. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, so your co-stars, getting onto that, were excellent in their roles. Perfect casting,
Thank you.
one might say. Were the other actors people that, with whom that you already knew, or were familiar with? Tell me about the casting, life of
So the
Riley.
casting was really fun because two of the actors I already knew, Dion Gibson, who plays Danielle, and Silas Mitchell, who plays Simon. I had worked with both of them and have remained really good friends with both of them. So I had them both in mind when I was writing these roles. Akende Munalula, who plays Jeremy, I got him. He was a referral from a renowned casting director who's also a teacher that I've worked with, Risa Brayman Garcia. I think she's got some of the best taste in the business. So I just went right to her and I was like, Risa, this is what I'm looking for. Can you send me some suggestions? She did. I saw Akende's tape. I was like, I'll interview him as long as he's good people. He's my guy. And he was, so it was great. And then Sergio, there were a couple of actors I was interested in, and I really was being specific that like, if I ended up casting, say, a Venezuelan actor, I would have made alterations in the script so that the cultural references were all Venezuelan, so that we don't do sort of that, lumping all Latin American people together or South American people together, as often happens. But we ended up with a Dominican actor. So, the references are Dominican because of that. And it also made sense because there's a very big Dominican population in New York, which is where this is set. So I did a random search. I wasn't quite finding what I wanted. And so I put in like Latino film actors. Sergio popped up. Thankfully, his agents in Atlanta had his reel publicly accessible. Smart move. I watched it. He's done a couple movies with Zoe Saldana back when they were, starting out. And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is one. Like no acting required. I watched his reel twice. So I cold called I saw it. I was like, okay, done and done. If this guy will do it, he's perfect for this. So I cold called his agents. I said, can I send a script to your client, Sergio Carlo? And they're like, great. And they did. And he loved it. And we had a Zoom like this to make sure again, I always want to make sure that like I got good people on my set, good human beings, as well as great talents. So I met with everybody individually that I didn't already know. And he was wonderful. And that was it. That's how, so he jokes when we do every time we do a Q&A, people say, how'd you find Sergio Carlo? He goes, Google.
Gotta love Google.
Which is
good.
kind of true. It's actually true.
No doubt.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Is there a message here? And if so, what is that message with the film?
So the message is, I think, we're at a crossroads in our culture, in this country and in this world. And I think bringing into the light the parts of ourselves, like the unconscious parts of ourselves that we don't want to look at because we don't like those parts, like unconscious bias, things like that, cultural differences, that I think the only way to raise awareness and to, for lack of a better word, heal these things so we can move forward with some peace is to bring them into the light. And so my hope with this story and other projects going forward is that I can bring some of these issues into the light in a way that also is very relatable, and we connect with the characters. And there's also a sense of, like I said, hope and humor to it as well. So it's not, everything isn't just like dark, 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 that it is a bit of a roller coaster of emotions, which is what I was trying to accomplish. So I think that's my intention with this project and other things that I create going forward.
Well, there's that message, and it's very important for us to all hear and take to heart. Well, I'm excited. I'm excited that you can bring that message to the audience, and that hopefully I get to meet you in person if you're going to be around the LAIFF.
Oh, I will. I sure will.
I will be at the opening tonight.
I will too. I
Yay.
can't wait. I'll
Yay,
get to meet you
yay.
in person. Yeah.
And for the rest of the festival, and there's a lot of film festivals out there, but I'm really excited about this one as well. And so how can our audience and our viewers and our watchers and your watchers find you?
Yes.
And the websites, social media?
So first things first, for people who are in the Los Angeles area, we are screening at Los Angeles International Film Festival this Thursday, November 2nd at 7 p.m. The more, the merrier. And as far as finding me, Lisa Datz, I'm on Instagram as Lisa Datz. The film is Life of Riley Film on Instagram. I'm mostly Instagram. The website is the two websites, lisadatz.com, lifeofrileyfilm.com. And I'm on LinkedIn for those who are more in the business world. I am on LinkedIn, Lisa Datz. I'm trying to be better about using LinkedIn. We are on Facebook as well. I don't use it as much as I use Instagram. That's sort of my primary focus is Instagram, but I am on Facebook, and so is the film as well. So many options. And IMDb, we're everywhere.
Yeah. All that. It's so important.
Yeah.
And we are the Hollywood Times dot today, and our YouTube is the Hollywood Times official. And we will be spreading the word about Life of Riley. And I'll see you tonight, hopefully. And
Yes.
yay! Thank you again for this time. And I would ask you what you're going to do next, but I'm hoping that you will continue, you know, this film and making it a feature or something like that.
Yes, we when I first wrote it, it was as a feature. And
Okay.
then I kind of went whoop because I wanted to do it sooner rather than later. And especially because like when I first started writing, it was pandemic time and all of that. So as we were going along, I thought, okay, this could still definitely be a feature. But I have so many stories to tell with these characters. This could actually be a series. So it was kind of through
Oh, even
right through
further. Yeah.
I'm asking as though the audience is out there. Did anyone see? Well, there's a couple spins on it. I was meeting with someone, a wonderful woman I know at NBC the other day, and I said this could be kind of a multicultural, international, more international feeling. This Is Us, if we sort of went in that
Okay.
route.
Right.
Um, but it could also be there's a series that Zoe Saldana did recently called From Scratch on Netflix. And
Mm-hmm.
I watched it, religiously. And because I loved how it was like the cultures and the families coming together and they came from different worlds. And obviously there's a different storyline and it's based on a true story, her book. But the multicultural sort of shooting in the US and abroad feeling of it, I was like, oh yes, this is what I'm talking about. So it was nice to be able to see something. And actually Zoe's a good friend of Sergio's. So there's just a lot of connections to that anyway. So that's kind of the direction we're starting to move
Okay.
in with this, which was a revelation as we were shooting.
All
So
right. So
yeah,
lots of things to think about. Excellent.
yes,
Good,
yes.
Lisa. All right. Yay. All right. Well,
Yay.
have a great rest of your day. And hopefully
So
we'll be
much.
melding into the night. Great.
Excellent. I'll see you tonight. Bye,
All
everybody.
right. Have a great one. Thanks
Thank
again.
you. You
Bye
too.
bye.
Thanks.